The National Desk, America's News, now.
Air quality concerns in the United States as hundreds of wildfires rage beyond the border in Canada. Which states issued their first alerts of the fire season?
We paid a lawyer a legal expense, and we have a legal expense is a legal expense. It's marked down in the book, quote, legal expense.
The star witness for the prosecution, former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, takes the stand. Could his testimony seal Trump's fate? A staggering number of Americans say they're lonely. Why so many people are disconnected and what can be done about it. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. It's great to have you here with us. A tornado watch has been issued over parts of Florida until 7 p.m. tonight. This as at least 21 million Americans have been in the path of severe weather threats again today in the southeast. Scattered storms are currently threatening parts of the Florida Panhandle and over much of south central into southeastern Texas. These storms could last into the night as they move across southern Louisiana, bringing damaging winds of 60 to 80 miles per hour and large hail. Stay with us as we continue to follow the updates throughout the evening. You can stay up to date on air and online at thenationaldesk.com. Air quality alerts are now in place for northern border states, Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, and Montana. You can see right here throughout today, air quality in Minnesota and Wisconsin rated as unhealthy to be outside, between 150 and 200 on the air quality index. More than 100 wildfires are currently burning in Canada, sending smoke into the U.S. Canadian officials say nearly 40 of the active wildfires have been labeled out of control. In 2023, smoke from wildfires in Canada blanketed much of the Northeast and Midwest last summer, causing tremendous drops in air quality. At least 18 states from Montana to New York, as far south as Georgia, issued multiple air quality alerts, according to Air Now. New York registered the worst air quality in the world last year, as ranked by IQ Air. Today, Donald Trump's former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, took the witness stand in his hush money payment trial in New York. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins joins us with more on what happened in the courtroom.
He's the star witness for the prosecution.
Michael, what do you have to say to Donald Trump?
Michael Cohen taking the stand Monday, testifying against his former boss, Donald Trump.
He obviously is delivering what the prosecution wants delivered in this case.
Trump facing 34 counts of falsifying business records.
This trial is rigged. It's dishonest. It's a disgrace to New York. It's a disgrace to the country.
The allegations centering around a $130,000 hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels in 2016. The money meant to keep her from running to the media with her story about a sexual encounter she had with Trump back in 2006.
Michael Cohen has the former president being directly involved in making sure that this story was not released to the public. So in that sense, he's delivering the motive to the jury.
Cohen made that payment to Daniels and was later reimbursed by Trump. The hush money payments themselves were not illegal, but the way this money was moved around and how much the president knew about the illegal methods which it was transferred is crucial to the case.
The crunch of Michael Cohen's testimony deals with the checks and the invoices. Was that set up in a way to keep it hidden from the public? And did the former president know about that? Michael Cohen's going to say he did know about it and that he was up to him. He worked with him closely on this.
Michael Cohen is a problematic witness for the prosecution. He has a history of lying under oath and went to prison for that charge and others relating to his work for Trump. A big question, will a jury find him to be credible now?
They're relying on people whose credibility has been torn to shreds in previous cases.
And Dee Dee, Michael Cohen will be back on the witness stand Tuesday for a highly anticipated cross-examination by the defense.
Expect from this cross-examination.
Well, Trump's lawyers will likely do everything they can to paint Cohen as a liar. Cohen will also have to accept blame for the things the defense will most certainly also paint him as a fix-it lawyer who took matters into his own hands and left Trump out of the dirty work. The prosecution will also have to overcome Cohen being painted as a disgruntled former employee who's trying to get back at his boss. We saw the prosecution try to get ahead of some of that this afternoon when Cohen admitted he was angry when Trump cut his bonus after he had fronted the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels. Cohen also admitted he was upset that he was not on the short list to be considered to be Trump's chief of staff. Dee.
We know you'll keep us posted on what unfolds. Live from Washington, D.C., Kayla Gaskins, thank you. Meantime, Republican Senators J.D. Vance and Tommy Tuberville, as well as New York Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, were at the trial today to observe the prosecution of the former president and called the proceedings political.
What's going on inside that courtroom is a threat to American democracy, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot have a country where you get to prosecute your political opponents instead of persuading voters.
Donald Trump is currently under indictment in 4 jurisdictions on the state level in New York and Georgia, and on the federal level in Florida and the District of Columbia. Prosecutors in all jurisdictions say their cases follow the rule of law and are not designed to keep the former president off the campaign trail. The container ship Dolly is now one step closer to being removed from the Baltimore shipping channel following the Key Bridge collapse back in March. A little over an hour ago, the Key Bridge Response Unified Command demolished a large section of the bridge wreckage from the ship using controlled explosives. They're refloating the vessel and removing it from the channel. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said they're now very close to fully clearing the channel. A suspect in the death of Ohio police officer Jacob Durbin has been found dead in a home in Shaker Heights, Ohio. Authorities said Durbin was responding to a disturbance reported at a home Saturday night when the suspect shot him to death in an ambush. Police are investigating a motive. And Atlanta officials are investigating a shooting of 3 police officers in that city on Saturday night. They were responding to a call about a man with a gun when they were shot and injured. The suspect was killed. The Wisconsin Supreme Court could reverse a 2022 ruling that banned the use of absentee ballot boxes from most of the state. 2 years ago, with a conservative majority, the court decided 4-3 to only allow these boxes to be in election clerk offices. The court flipped this past year, and today, the 4 liberal justices said the law doesn't make absentee ballot boxes unconstitutional. If the ruling is overturned, the ballot boxes will be open for the 2024 general election. U.S. airlines are suing the Biden administration over a new fee disclosure rule. Now, under this rule, airlines and travel agents, they have to disclose any service fees up front alongside the price of the flight. American, Delta, United, and their industry trade group jointly filed the lawsuit, arguing that the rule will confuse consumers and the Transportation Department is overstepping its authority. The department says it will defend the rule they say is meant to protect consumers from hidden junk fees. U.S. Senator Robert Menendez's federal corruption trial is now underway. Jury selection actually began today. The New Jersey Democrat is facing 16 criminal counts, including bribery and extortion. 2 businessmen also on trial are accused of giving Menendez and his wife bribes worth more than $500 million, like money, a luxury car, and gold bars. Menendez says he is innocent. Almost 14,000 pounds of cocaine and more than 3,700 pounds of marijuana were offloaded by the Coast Guard last week, coinciding with Fleet Week Miami. The estimated street value of the drugs is around $185 million. Crews seized the substances in the international waters of the Caribbean Sea and Atlantic Ocean. They also arrested 10 suspected smugglers. Almost half of illegal fentanyl seized by U.S. law enforcement, 49%, is now in pill form, according to a new study in the International Journal of Drug Policy. That's a huge jump from 2017, when it was 10%. Fentanyl pills often look like prescription medications like Xanax or Adderall. That makes it more likely that someone will accidentally take it. Coming up next here on the National Desk, what the government is doing to stop election threats, plus what new polls show about which way voters are leaning in swing states. Then employees of the first Apple store to unionize could be the first to go on strike, what they want from the company. And later, 1 out of 2 Americans report experiencing serious loneliness. Why it's being called a public health crisis. We're back in 90 seconds. The Justice Department is accelerating its efforts to stop threats against election workers that have been increasing since the last presidential election. Today, the Election Threats Task Force held a meeting where Attorney General Merrick Garland highlighted some of the work that's been done since he started the group 3 years ago.
We secured a 2-year prison sentence for a man in Texas who threatened Georgia officials in the wake of the 2020 election, including threatening to, quote, put a bullet behind the ears of an election worker.
New polling shows President Joe Biden trailing former President Donald Trump in multiple key battleground states. As Sinclair national correspondent Matt Gelka tells us, the former president is making inroads with some traditionally Democratic voting bases.
The former president touted his poll numbers on his way into a New York courtroom Monday.
The New York Times just came out with a poll that shows us leading everywhere by a lot.
He has reason to be optimistic, according to the latest Siena New York Times polling. Trump leads in 5 of 6 battleground states, including Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, and Nevada. President Joe Biden was leading in Wisconsin.
We are going to officially play in the state of New Jersey. We're going to win the state of New Jersey.
At a rally in New Jersey over the weekend, the former president said traditional Democratic strongholds will be winnable this November. Polling suggests Trump and Biden are tied with Hispanic voters with 31% support for each candidate. The group broke for Biden at more than 60% in 2020 and helped propel him to a presidential win.
40,000 people dead.
The president could have a problem with young voters, too. The latest polling found 13% of Biden voters in 2020 who don't plan on voting for him in 2024 cite the war in Gaza and foreign policy as their number one issue.
He has handled everything with Israel and Palestine terribly.
Almost 80% of 18 to 29-year-olds surveyed say there needed to be major economic changes or the system needed tearing down entirely, with Trump getting much more support in the poll as the candidate who would shake up the system. Still, a lot can change in 6 months.
This was a weird poll, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. If you're in the Biden campaign, you're concerned but not alarmed. If you're in the Trump campaign, you are encouraged, but you're not popping champagne corks just yet.
The poll also showed that black voter support might be softening for Joe Biden while Donald Trump is making gains. Later this week, the president will have multiple events catering to black audiences in an effort to shore up the support that helped him win in 2020. For the National Desk in Washington, I'm Matt Gelke.
Over the weekend, IDF forces re-engaged in northern and central Gaza as Hamas cells have popped up weeks after being cleared. This comes as Israel continues to step up their military foothold in eastern Rafah. Today, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan reiterated the president's stance that a full invasion would not be supported.
We still believe would be a mistake to launch a major military operation into the heart of Rafah that would put huge numbers of civilians at risk without a clear strategic gain. The president was clear that he would not supply certain offensive weapons for such an operation were it to occur.
Meantime, while the Rafah and Kerem Shalom aid crossings remain closed, a new humanitarian corridor did open near the northern part of the Gaza Strip in an effort to get much-needed food and fuel to the residents there. Axios is also reporting that Israel has asked the Palestinian Authority to take part in operating the Rafah Gate. The authority is demanding that Israel release tax money owed to them that has been on hold for 10 days. Israel paused payments when the PA pushed the criminal court for arrest warrants against Israeli senior officials. Employees at a Mercedes-Benz plant in Alabama are now voting on whether to join the United Auto Workers Union. A vote to unionize would be a major victory for the UAW, since the South has historically been anti-union. The UAW just picked up a win a few weeks ago at a VW factory in Tennessee. Final results are expected on Friday. Apple Store employees in Towson, Maryland soon could go on strike now that they voted to authorize one over the weekend. It was the first Apple Store to unionize and would be the first strike. The union said they'd been negotiating with management for over a year with no good outcome. The workers are looking for better scheduling practices and wages. They haven't yet set a date. 2 Americans have been detained in Tbilisi, Georgia, after protesting a bill being debated at the Georgian Capitol. The legislation would require organizations there to declare themselves as foreign agents if they receive at least 20% of the funding from outside of the country. 20 people in all were arrested when thousands of protesters attempted to block lawmakers from entering the building to debate the measure today. The bill is expected to pass the full assembly tomorrow. Gordon Black, an American soldier under arrest in Russia, has filed an appeal on his detention. Black was taken into custody earlier this month and charged with criminal misconduct. The U.S. Army said Black was stationed in South Korea and did not have permission to enter Russia, but did so in the first week of May to visit his girlfriend while on leave. Black's initial trial is set for July 1st. The government is investigating the safety of Amazon's self-driving robo-taxi unit, Zoox. 2 of its vehicles braked suddenly and were rear-ended by motorcyclists who got injured. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said it's looking into these crashes along with how the automated system works in crosswalks with pedestrians. Certain lawn owners sold at stores like Lowe's and Home Depot are being recalled due to a risk of injury. Take a look at your screen right here. It impacts 2 Honda lawn owners and a general purpose engine. Now, this recall adds on to one from September that affected nearly 400,000 mowers and engines. Owners should stop using them immediately and contact a Honda power equipment dealer for a free inspection and repair. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America.
Mental illness is a topic that's now become more prevalent than ever, and with that comes the stronger need for a therapist.
The mainstream person now is more willing to seek help than ever before. The problem is we haven't increased the supply. So I'm no economist, but when demand goes up and supply stays the same, it creates problems.
Dr. Ken Duckworth is a chief medical officer for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization. Data from their website shows in the U.S., 1 in 4 adults experiences mental illness. 1 in 20 suffer from a serious mental illness.
Sunday, Fresno County water rescue teams were called out as a father and daughter got stuck in the San Joaquin River.
We actually had crews water training at this site very close by, so that was one of the benefits of having a quick and immediate response.
The two were kayaking near Fryan when the daughter got stuck on a tree. The father's kayak also got stuck on a concrete island in the middle of the river.
People are wanting to come and be in the water, and we just want to remind everyone to be cautious of what you guys are doing. Make sure you guys are wearing your personal flotation devices, and make sure you guys have a backup plan and emergency contacts in place.
The roar of jet engines. People say it's what makes the air show worth the wait.
This is definitely something everyone should experience once in a lifetime.
Inspiring third graders like Joshua.
I wanted to join the Army for some reason, but then my dad, he told me the Marine Corps is better for some reason, so I'm just gonna do that.
And re-energizing veteran pilots like Jeff Wilson.
I'm very envious. I wish I was up here in the cockpit with them. I'm very proud of everything they do right now.
Also making people like Sarita Adupa feel like a kid again.
And the whoosh sound, that is the one which I like a lot.
Yeah, it is incredible to watch. Coming up next year, an alarming number of people are lonely. What's driving this intense sense of isolation? Right after the break. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and a major concern impacting our nation is how loneliness is hurting our health. The U.S. Surgeon General calls it a public health crisis, with 1 out of 2 people reporting measurable levels of loneliness. Spotlight on America national investigative correspondent Angie Moreski goes in depth to find out why we're seeing so many disconnected people and what can be done about it.
There we go! What a go!
Social sports.
You have to go, you have to go!
Like this Volo Kickball League in Washington, D.C., can be a lifeline for people feeling isolated in today's society.
Have you experienced loneliness?
I have.
Lindsay Cohen and Kaylee Ann Schwartz joined the league to recapture some of the social connection they lost during the pandemic.
I feel like I know a lot of lonely people, and a lot of people still searching for community.
I think COVID really did a number on our generation.
I worry that we have become a lonely and disconnected nation.
The U.S. Surgeon General declared loneliness a public health crisis last year, saying 1 out of 2 Americans report measurable loneliness and calling the health impact devastating. Not only increasing the risk for depression and anxiety, but also heart disease, stroke, dementia, and even premature death.
I think we are absolutely at risk.
Psychologist and Harvard professor Dr. Rick Weisbord led a 2021 survey that found young people had the highest levels of loneliness, with nearly 2/3 of young adults 18 to 25 and more than half of mothers with young children reporting serious loneliness. Weisbord says multiple factors are to blame, including remote work and social media, which can make it harder to create true relationships.
I think in a number of ways, in-person interactions tend to be, more connecting and more fulfilling.
Multiple studies show the COVID pandemic contributed to loneliness, but it was already well underway, with the amount of time young people spent in person with friends declining by nearly 60% from 2003 to 2019. Did you feel like you hit rock bottom?
Oh, 100%.
As a new mom, just divorced and working remotely during the pandemic, Myra Darris thought she was staying connected.
There'd be the Facebook groups or messaging, and I was like, oh, I have a community, but not really. It was very superficial when you have these social media friendships or communities.
She started experiencing debilitating loneliness, which included depression, even blackouts in time.
I wasn't leaving the bed.
Myra ended up taking short-term disability and got help through therapy.
And I realized, oh, we do need people. We do need a community. I need to get to know my neighbors.
When you're feeling lonely, Dr. Weisbord says that's precisely the time you should try to get out and meet with people, because loneliness can feed on itself and start to spiral. So making an intentional effort to get out and see people in person can be one of the best ways to beat the cycle of loneliness. For Spotlight on America, I'm Angie Moreski.
Coming up next year, the first game of this year's NFL season is now on the calendar. The details, plus when we'll know the rest of the schedule, coming up right after this. Welcome back. The first game of the 2024 NFL season is set, and it will be a good one. The two-time defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs will host the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday, September 5th. This matchup is a rematch of the AFC title game in January when the Chiefs went on the road to defeat the Ravens in Baltimore. The rest of the NFL schedule will be announced on Wednesday. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says the geomagnetic storm activity could happen again tonight and may even be a little stronger tomorrow, but will not reach as far south as it did over the weekend. According to the administration, people may be able to see the northern lights at middle and higher latitudes. Some Americans have been able to see the skies lighten up since Friday night. And that is going to do it for us for this edition of the National Desk. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again this